but I believe we've come here always with a sense of our responsibility, of who we must be in terms of making sure that justice isn't just for us, but justice is something that hits everyone. Today's walk that the Jewish World Watch did, the walk to end genocide, I think is testament to that, and a welcome addition to this day, and I want to thank the Jewish World Watch for what they did this morning. But the Holocaust still echoes. The Holocaust still echoes because in this past year too, the things that we have seen around the world continue to touch us. And we say every year, never again, but we watch it happen again and again. Maybe we can justify that the scale doesn't feel as significant, so we still are survivors of the very worst. What does that mean to somebody who's lost a father, a brother, a sister, a daughter, a child? Those who have met with racism, prejudice, intolerance, and the genocides that surround us. Earlier this year, I was at the Museum of Tolerance, and a document was taken out as the opening of the Anne Frank exhibition there. It is a letter written by Adolf Hitler. I was asked to hold it. I'm not sure if I wanted to, but I held it for a moment. It's the only written link of this man, and we know what he did, but it's a letter he wrote in the 20s, I believe, where he was saying that he was against violence against Jews on the street. He didn't want an ad hoc approach. He wanted something more systematic to deal with the Jewish issue. And to feel that letter and the chill that it sent down my spine, that direct connection with the horrors of the Holocaust, was probably the most meaningful event for me this year, including becoming mayor. As we look in the Ukraine, as we look in the Middle East and Syria, as we look at conflicts in Africa, conflicts are always complicated in geopolitical terms. Who's right, who's wrong, who's best for America, who's best for Israel. But in human terms, the things that are happening are not ever complicated. When someone is killed using gas, civilians in a country, how can we not but feel that with echoes of our own history? And this past year, that happened. When we see butchering based on religion, how can we not but feel that as part of who we are as well? When killings because of sexual orientation or religious houses are burned to the ground, we know that that happened during the Holocaust, and it still happens today. That's what this sacred place is about. Not just to remember the past and those who have survived and are surviving, but to make sure that we recognize that each one of us has the potential to be that oppressor and that oppressed. I have a 2-year-old daughter now. Her name is Maya. And I look at her, watch her grow up and see the beauty in her eyes and recognize she had so many different pathways. Each one of us in our families and in our lives know that today in humanity we have, whether it is somebody growing up without parents in this city, whether it is somebody who is singled out because they are Jewish or Christian or Muslim, because they are gay, because they are old, that we have a duty to make sure that we stand up and lead. That we are the ones who don't look just to government or to others to pass the laws and to stop. When a racist comment is made by a notable person in our city, we have the obligation to speak out swiftly before our silence abets something stronger. We are survivors, each one of us. We are students, each one of us. We are teachers, each one of us. And we are called to condemn racism, prejudice, genocide, wherever, whenever we see it in the past, in the present, or its future stirrings. And the best testament of what the human spirit is those survivors that are here today. And I'd like to continue a tradition that Antonio, as my predecessor, did. And I'd like to ask those survivors that are with us to please stand as we honor you, our loved ones, and our great angels that are here in this city, testament to the strength of our community. I'll end with this. Almost 20 years ago, just over 20 years ago, I was a student in Europe, and I took a trip to Eastern Europe with 3 friends. It was about as cold as you can get in December. And we went to Poland, to Auschwitz. And in Birkenau, because it's such a cold time of year and there was ice on the ground, it was a time when almost nobody visits. There are a few people in the museum in Auschwitz, but we walked all the way to Birkenau through each of the structures that were there. And it was just the four of us in this place that could have filled 100+ football fields. There were no voices that were there, no people that were there. And I walked to a lake that I had read about in the New Yorker article that questioned what happens when we no longer have the physical memory. When one day, as the Armenian genocide is confronting today, there's only a handful of survivors left. And one day when we all leave this earth, there will be a moment which we don't have any person who survived the Holocaust to speak of it. What will we do when the hair that was cut off that is in that museum disintegrates and the luggage, the shoes are no longer there? I went to this lake that was used after the incinerators took our people and dumped their ashes into the lake. And there was a small, thin ice on the top of it. And I broke my hand through that ice and plunged it into the cold water and into the mud at the bottom and pulled that up. In my hands, I still felt and saw the physical evidence of those ashes, those fragments of bone. That moment when we see the potential of what human beings can do to each other, we know that there is only one way forward. No law, no force can stop this, only us and the power of education. When Jonah had that vision with so many others in 1961 to make sure that there wasn't going to be a single school child in this town that would go through their education without learning, he turned this city into an army of angels, of people who are ready to speak out, to speak up, and to act, so that we can ensure from this city and throughout the world that this never, ever happens again. Thank you very much.